The millionaire returns home early and is left shocked by a terrible secret he discovers. The doors of the grand Hawthorne mansion creaked ominously as Ethan stepped inside, drenched from the downpour that lashed against the windows like frantic fingers. Lightning split the dark sky, casting ghostly shadows across the lavish foyer, where glittering chandeliers hung like anxious eyes waiting for a secret to spill. He had expected warmth, the sweet scent of dinner wafting through the air, maybe even his wife Claire's laughter echoing from the kitchen. Instead, an unsettling tension wrapped around him, heavy and immovable. Ethan sensed something was off. The house, usually filled with vibrant echoes of family life, lay hauntingly still. He tossed his umbrella aside and moved toward the dimly lit study, where the clamor of thunder became a distant whisper. His heart raced. A faint yet heated exchange drifted through the door, though the words were muffled by the walls. Curiosity pricked at him, drawing him closer. He pushed the door open, and his breath caught in his throat. Claire sat across from a shadowy figure, their faces partially illuminated by the flickering light of a nearby lamp. Something in the air felt wrong, charged with unspoken fear. Claire's usually warm expression was now hardened. Her eyes narrowed, her voice sharp and low. The figure leaned closer, obscured by darkness, its features indistinguishable. "I can't keep doing this, Claire," the figure said, urgency dripping from each syllable. "You know what he'll do if he finds out." Ethan's chest tightened, an ice-cold lump of dread pooling in his stomach. Instinctively, he took a step back, heart pounding in his ears. Yet some magnetic force urged him to stay. He'd seen Claire stressed before, but this was different. This felt like betrayal. "What do you want me to do?" Claire snapped, voice trembling now, tension crackling like the storm outside. It's too late to turn back. Ethan's mind raced. Betrayal echoed in every corner of his soul. Tarnished memories of his father's dark legacy flooding his thoughts. Whispers of hush money and threats concealed under a luxurious facade. Did Claire know something he didn't? Was there more lurking in the shadows of their lives? He stood there, invisibly tethered between disbelief and desire for confrontation. Every heartbeat screamed at him to step into the light and demand answers. But an insidious fear held him captive. Suddenly, Claire's eyes darted towards him and his cover was blown. The room froze as the tension escalated. The shadowy figure rose abruptly, and Claire's face paled. The air thickened with uncertainty, and the storm raged outside, matching the tumult within him. "What are you doing home early, Ethan?" Claire asked, the flint of panic dancing in her gaze. Ethan opened his mouth to speak, but found no words, just the overwhelming weight of reality crashing over him. Secrets loomed like storm clouds, darker than the tempest outside. Would he uncover the truth, or was this just the beginning of his unraveling? The answers felt slippery, like shadows fading in flickering light. "Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, smash that like button because it really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact." Ethan's silence hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Claire's dark eyes, usually brimming with tenderness, now flickered with something sharp. Panic settled in the room like an unwelcome guest. The shadowy figure, still cloaked in secrecy, turned slightly, and Ethan's heart raced as a wave of recognition crashed over him. "Ethan." Claire's voice wavered, the lilt of her tone shifting into something desperate. "I didn't think you'd be home." The figure stepped into the light, just enough for Ethan to see. It was Marcus, his brother. Their eyes locked, and in that instant, memories flooded back. Time spent together, the laughter, the brotherly bond that had always felt unbreakable. But now everything had shifted. a fissure growing wider each second. "What the hell is going on?" Ethan demanded, his voice barely above a whisper. He felt as if the walls were closing in, suffocating him. Marcus shifted uncomfortably, then broke the silence. "I had to tell Claire. She needed to know before you did. We can't hide this anymore." "Hide what?" The words burst from Ethan, fueled by rage and confusion. "What could be so urgent that you'd risk everything? Your father's business. He's involved in something dangerous, Ethan. Something that could ruin us all." The words spilled from Marcus like a dam breaking. Ethan's mind spun. His father, the towering figure of success in their lives, was involved in something dangerous? Secrets tangled in his heart, the weight of betrayal clawing at him. "What do you mean?" he pressed, shifting unsteadily. "What are you talking about? This isn't just about business." Claire, still pale, stepped toward Ethan, her hands trembling. "It's worse than that, Ethan. It involves you. It involves your past." As Claire spoke, Ethan's phone vibrated violently in his pocket, shattering the tension for a fleeting second. He fished it out, eyes darting toward the screen. It was a message from a number he didn't recognize, the words heavy with implication. "I need to see you. You're in danger. Find the vault." He stood frozen, the air thick with darkness and uncertainty. "What vault?" The question dropped from his lips like a lead balloon. Claire's eyes widened, and the panic transformed into recognition. "Ethan, what does this mean? You're not in danger, are you? What do you know?" Ethan felt the ground shift beneath him. "I don't know anything." He raked a hand through his damp hair. "But I just got a message. Something about a vault." "What vault? What is happening?" The atmosphere crackled as the storm outside continued to rage. Marcus stepped forward, his voice now low, urgent. "You're being watched. The stakes are higher than we thought. Your father, he's not just a businessman. He's into something far darker, and we can't let it affect your future." Before Ethan could respond, the lights flickered ominously above, sending the room into sudden darkness. A loud crack of thunder echoed, rattling the windows, and Claire's scream pierced through the silence. The shadows shifted, and a figure emerged from the darkness, a silhouette that sent chills down Ethan's spine. It was too familiar, too haunting. "I thought I'd find you here," it said, voice smooth like silk but laced with malice. Ethan's breath hitched as he recognized the figure stepping into the dim light. It was a familiar face from his past, one he thought he had left behind. The realization hit him like a hammer. He was not just tied to these secrets, he was at the very center of a web he never wanted to be part of. "Who are you?" Ethan's voice trembled now, filled with disbelief and dread. "Someone who knows the truth, Ethan, and it's time you faced it." The revelation hung in the air like the storm outside, dark and foreboding as fear gripped him. He realized this was just the beginning. Everything he thought he knew was about to unravel. Where would it lead him? And would he be able to escape the shadows closing in around him? Ethan's breath caught as the figure stepped into the light, revealing not just a familiar face, but a twisted threat he hadn't anticipated. "Jake," he gasped, recognizing his long-lost childhood friend, the one who'd vanished years ago, leaving behind nothing but whispered rumors. "Surprised to see me?" Jake smirked, leaning against the door frame, arrogance radiating from him. He looked the same, yet different, hardened, like he'd lived a lifetime in shadows. "I hear you've been busy, Ethan. What are you doing here?" Claire's voice trembled, a mix of fear and confusion, swirling in the room, thick as the storm outside. "This isn't—" "Save it," Jake interrupted, his voice cutting through the tension. "You don't know the half of it." He shrugged, stepping fully into the light, and in that moment the air grew electric. "I came to deliver a message. Your father's empire, it's crumbling. But what you don't realize is that those secrets, they're bigger than all of you." Marcus shifted uncomfortably beside Claire. Ethan felt everything inside him twist. Memories rushed back. Jake had been part of their lives, then he'd just disappeared. "You're lying." This is some twisted game, Ethan asserted, challenging every cruel word that left Jake's mouth. Jake's laughter rang hollow. No game, my friend. Your father is in deep, and I'm the only one who can help you, whether you like it or not. A gleam of mischief danced in his eyes, icy and unyielding. Help? Claire scoffed. What do you want in return? Jake leaned forward, lowering his voice. You don't even know what you're asking. What you want is to uncover the truth, right? The truth about your father and this whole charade. But that truth, it eats you alive. Ethan felt Marcus's hand on his shoulder, a grounding presence, yet the grip felt like shackles, holding him back from confronting Jake. What do you know? Ethan pressed, voice strained with urgency. I know your father's business isn't just about profits. It's about power, control, violence. I'm part of it. Jake stepped closer, noise from the storm fading into a whisper. I helped him hide it, but now, it's all about to blow. Panic swelled within Ethan, making the room spin. What have you done? Suddenly, the lights flickered again, and a loud crash from outside made them jump. The tension broke momentarily, but Ethan felt a new fear, something darker creeping in. Time's running out, Jake urged, his eyes wide. You can choose to stay in the dark, or you can fight. Your family's legacy is crumbling, Ethan, and you need to decide what side you're on, before it's too late. Before Ethan could respond, there was a pounding on the front door, urgent and relentless. It echoed through the mansion, louder than the thunder outside. Who is it? Claire's voice trembled, fear palpable as she stepped back. Without hesitation, Marcus moved toward the door. I'll check, he said, his tone firmer than his expression. Ethan's chest tightened. No, don't open it. But the warning slipped too late. The door swung open. Wind howled, bringing with it shadows that spilled into the room. Then, chaos. Figures burst inside, their faces obscured by darkness, eyes glinting with malice. Ethan's heart raced. Run, he shouted, moving to shield Claire. But the world around him shattered. They surged forward, shattering his grip on reality. And amidst the chaos, Jake slipped into the shadows, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth, as he vanished from sight. That was the last thing Ethan saw before the room exploded with a clamor of voices, confusion, fear, and fury. As he wrestled with strained breaths and clawing panic, one thought consumed him. Everything he knew was collapsing, unraveling beneath his feet. And then came the harsh whisper in his ear, chilling him to his core. It's just begun, Ethan. What had he done to unleash this storm? Only deepening secrets remained, shrouded in darkness, waiting to be unveiled. How could he possibly escape the mess he was entangled in? The night was far from over, and he would have to find a way through the chaos, or be swallowed whole. Ethan felt his heart pound louder than the thunder outside, as chaos unfurled in the mansion. Shadows surged like hungry wolves, and panic gripped him harder than before. The room filled with urgent voices, some shouting, some crying. It was a whirlwind, spinning faster than he could grasp. Get everyone out, Ethan yelled, drawing closer to Claire, his body instinctively shielding her from the encroaching darkness. We need to move. But before they could react, a massive figure loomed at the door. The silhouette of a man with piercing eyes that glimmered like shards of glass in the dim light. Stop, a voice boomed, cutting through the noise. Stay where you are. Every breath hitched. The figure stepped forward, revealing a glint of metal, a gun held tightly in hand. Instinct kicked in. Ethan's muscles froze. Not fear, but an ancient, primal part of him recognized danger. The air crackled with tension. Newcomer scanned the room, contempt etched on his face. I'm looking for Ethan Hawthorne. You've caught the attention of people you don't want to mess with. Ethan's eyes darted to Claire. She trembled, terror rippling through her. Whispered threats from shadows danced in his mind. Who sent you? Ethan asked, voice oddly steady despite the chaos. The panicked whispers in the room subsided, all eyes on the intruder. a breath caught like a secret. Doesn't matter, the man sneered, leveling the gun towards Ethan. You've dug too deep. It's over. Before Ethan could respond, the lights flickered again, plunging the room into darkness. The crack of thunder echoed, sharper now, like the sound of glass breaking. And in that moment, everything shifted. A loud crash came from the back, followed by a high-pitched shriek. Claire. The darkness filled with chaos as bodies collided, screams rising, absolute pandemonium. Claire! Ethan shouted, frantically searching through the shadows. Just then, a familiar voice pierced through the chaos. Ethan! It was Marcus rushing through the crowd, eyes wide with terror. We need to get everyone out, now. Where's Claire? Ethan roared, desperation rising inside him. By the way, Ethan, there's something I need to tell you, Marcus began. But another gunshot rang out, echoing through the mansion. The sound ricocheted off the walls like a physical blow. Ethan's heart dropped as Claire's terrified scream tore through the air, sharp and sickening. And then silence. Marcus, no, Ethan yelled as he shoved through the bodies, fear propelling him forward. His pulse raced, panic blinded him. No, no, he whispered. But the world around him became a whirlwind, a storm of chaos, anger, and fear. Then a voice, smooth and wicked, broke through the disarray. You shouldn't have come back, Ethan. It was Jake, stepping from the shadows, unshaken among the mayhem, a smirk still plastered across his face. Ethan's world spun again, reeling. You set this up. Much worse than that, Jake murmured, with a glint of menace in his eyes. You remember all those stories from childhood, about your father's deals? I'm very much a part of this family, Ethan, and you played right into my hands. Everything swirled around him, a devastating storm of memories and betrayal flooding back. You're lying. You were gone for years. Not by choice. But I've been watching. This is your legacy, Ethan, whether you like it or not. Then came another crash, and the room exploded into flashes of light as the storm raged outside. In that instant, something collided with Ethan's head. A rush of pain, his vision blurred. He stumbled and fell, everything fading to darkness. He lay there, lost in the chaos, shaken by the weight of betrayal. When he finally opened his eyes, he found himself staring up at a familiar face. Eyes that had always been filled with kindness. A presence he'd trusted unconditionally. Claire, he whispered, trying to rise, but his body felt heavy, like anchors pinning him to the ground. But then clarity hit. Claire, his wife, his ally. What he saw next made his heart drop. Tears streaked down her face, fear etched deep within her. Ethan, you're not safe. They're coming for you, she gasped, voice trembling. Who's coming for me? He blinked against the shadows, struggling to grasp the unfolding nightmare. They know everything, and the one you trust the most. Suddenly, a chilling voice interrupted again. Apparently, Ethan, you're not as smart as everyone thought. Eyes widened. Ethan turned to face the last person he expected to see, stepping from the depths of the crowd. His father, a dark shadow in the doorway. You should have stayed gone. Time froze. Everything shattered, and all Ethan had ever known faltered in the face of this twisted truth. Who was the real enemy? Would he fight against the man who raised him, or fall prey to the darkness that threatened to unravel them all? Ethan's breath hitched, the storm outside forgotten, as the figures loomed in the dim light of the mansion. His father, the man he had idolized and feared, stood before him, a dark force in a world already swirling with confusion. You shouldn't have come back, he said, the chill of his voice seeping into the very walls. Why? Ethan whispered, confusion mixing with rage. What did you do? Enough. You're too deep to back out now, his father shot back, a grimace crossing his face. This is bigger than you, than all of... Yes, but just as they stood, battling with breaths and accusations like raging waves crashing against rocks, there was a loud thud that vibrated through the floors. The room froze, and every face turned toward the sound, dread crawling across their skin. Ethan, behind you, Claire screamed, her voice soaring above the storm. Ethan whipped around, adrenaline snapping him into action. But it was too late. A figure burst from the shadows, lunging straight at him, mask cloaked in darkness. A jagged blade glittered in their hand, and before he could react, it was driven deep into his side. Pain shot through him like a lightning bolt, sharp and excruciating. His vision blurred, colors swirling into a chaos of reds and blacks. He gasped, staggering back, clutching the wound as blood blossomed like a cruel flower. The room erupted into screams and chaos. His father's face shifted from anger to panic. "No," he shouted. "You fool, what have you done?" Ethan crumpled to the ground, his breaths coming in desperate gasps. Claire dove toward him, tears streaming down her face, her hands pressing against the wound, desperately trying to staunch the flow of blood. "Stay with me, Ethan, please," she cried, her voice cracking. But reality distorted around him, slipping like sand through fingers. Just as he felt himself slipping into the dark, a blinding flash of recognition struck him. In the swirling chaos, he recognized the attacker, the shape, the stance. It was evident, a sick twist of fate. "Jake?" He managed to croak, his voice fragile, falling like shattered glass around them. The masked figure paused briefly, the recognition lingering in the air like a ghost. But all at once the mask came off. Shocked gasps echoed throughout the room. It was not Jake at all. It was Marcus, his own brother, standing there, face pale and eyes wide with horror. "Ethan, Why?" Ethan struggled, blood pooling beneath him, the world narrowing to a pinhole. "Why would you?" "I had no choice. They were gonna kill you." Marcus's voice cracked under the weight of his confession. "I was trying to protect you, but it was the only way." "Protect me?" Ethan whispered, disbelief clawing at him. "By stabbing me?" Alarm buzzed through the air, palpable and suffocating. Claire's heart-wrenching sob broke through, raw and aching, as she stepped back with disgust. "How could you?" Her words sliced like daggers. "Listen to me. I didn't know. I thought if I eliminated you, if they saw you as a liability." Before Marcus could finish, the front door burst open again with a bang. More shapes spilled into the room, more shadows of danger, this time organized. They moved swiftly, dressed in dark suits, their intentions clear. "Let's go, Marcus," one called out, aiming a cold glare at Ethan as he lay on the floor, losing consciousness. "You brought this on yourself, Ethan." Marcus spat, his voice suddenly devoid of emotion. "You had to meddle, didn't you?" And then it happened. In a vicious twist, he turned, running toward the door, abandoning Ethan on the floor. "Marcus, no!" Claire screamed. But he was gone. The dark figures rushed into the chaos, leaving Ethan's body behind, a casualty in a war he didn't even know he was part of. As stars began to blur at the corners of his vision, Ethan realized he was not just fighting his father's demons. This was a betrayal deeper than blood, a horror born of secrets that twisted the very fabric of his life. As he faded, the only thing on his mind was, how deep does this darkness go? Would he survive the truth that clawed at the edges of his consciousness? Ethan lay on the ground, the world becoming a blur of voices and panic, pain radiating from the wound. Each heartbeat felt like a hammer against his chest. He focused hard on Claire's face above him, her features twisted in desperation. Then everything shifted. Suddenly, a deafening crash. The front wall of the mansion buckled, splintering wood and glass flying everywhere. Ethan shielded Claire with his body as the chaos unfolded. A massive vehicle barreled through the splintered remains of the doorway, tires screeching. It was a black SUV, merciless and imposing. A figure jumped out, clad in a tactical vest, his face obscured by a mask. Another figure followed, then another. Ethan's heart raced as their eyes swept the room, seeking out not just him, but something deeper. "Ethan!" Claire cried, pulling him closer as if she could somehow shield him from the impending storm. But then another figure emerged from inside the SUV, someone Ethan couldn't believe. His mother, Sarah, stepping out with a determined look. She hadn't been seen in years, rumored to be lost in some foreign country. What is she doing here? he thought, shock mixing with pain. Get him out. We don't have time, she barked, moving with the swift efficiency of someone who had seen chaos before. Ethan's mind raced as he struggled against the pain. He couldn't process it all. His mother? Here? Helping? He wanted to shout, to ask questions, but his strength was fading. Claire glanced at Sarah, her eyes wide with disbelief. You were...
Gone. Why now? No time. We have to move, Sarah commanded, grabbing Ethan's arm. The shadows are closing in. Marcus made a mistake. We can't let them find you. Mom, wait, Ethan gasped, trying to sit up even as darkness encroached the edges of his vision. But she pulled him up, and suddenly, everything shifted again. Look out, a voice yelled. Before Ethan could comprehend who it was, they were overwhelmed as another figure dove into the room, someone who had stayed hidden until now, Jake. What are you doing? Jake shouted, panic, etc. I'm here to save him, Sarah said, her voice steady and fierce. Something bigger is happening than you realize, Jake. We have to go, now. The tension snapped like a taut string. Loud footsteps pounded closer, followed by aggressive shouts from the figures in the SUV, demanding answers. They were closing in. We have to jump, one of them yelled, desperation seeping into every syllable. Ethan looked at Claire, then Marcus, then Jake, questions bubbling in his mind. Why is she here? What does she know? His vision narrowed, swirling as he battled to keep consciousness. In that moment, a figure stumbled into the room, chest heaving, eyes wide. It was Marcus, his earlier coldness replaced by sheer panic. They're coming, he shouted, glancing back as if monsters chased him. Ethan, you don't know what I... But another gunshot interrupted him. Just as it echoed, a deafening bang exploded from behind the vehicle. A second SUV, fully armored, screeched into view. The agents swarmed, eyes burning with urgency. Get down, they yelled, ascending like dark storm clouds. Ethan's chest twisted painfully as he registered the scene. Chaos surrounded him. Betrayal dripped from every angle. Mom, why are you here? He croaked, desperate for an answer as shadows invaded the room. And then it happened. A figure emerged from the second SUV, a woman with a commanding presence, icy resolve in her gaze. Enough of this charade, she shouted, her voice breaking through the noise. Ethan, you should have never returned to this life. Recognition sliced through the fog clouding his mind. Ethan's mouth went dry as the pieces fell into place. Who are you? The woman stepped into the light, unveiling an all too familiar face. A face he thought he'd buried in memories and pain. It was Catherine, his mentor, a woman who had taught him about the business world, who had guided him for years. But she looked different now, fierce and unyielding, like an unmasked villain from a story he'd once admired. Your father pushed me out, Ethan, but I won't let you destroy what he started, she spat. The world erupted, chaos swirling around him. But all Ethan could think was, what truth did she mean? Was she friend or foe? And more importantly, whose side was he really on? Everything he thought he knew shattered, and in that moment, when everything hung in the balance, Ethan realized that the past didn't just haunt him. It sought to consume him entirely. Ethan, Claire cried, pulling him closer. But as shadows surged around them, drowning him in panic, one thought took root in his mind. Would he escape this tangled web at all, or was this just the beginning of an even darker descent? Ethan's eyes widened as the shocking reality settled heavily on him. Catherine stood there, a figure he once admired turned adversary. Claire clutched his hand tightly, fear pouring from her every expression. But before he could unravel the truth, before his mind could comprehend her betrayal, a low rumble filled the air, a flicker of darkness creeping into the edges of the room like a predator reigniting its hunt. Then, in an instant, another figure emerged from the SUV behind Catherine. This one wasn't wearing a mask. It was someone Ethan had thought was long gone, a face he'd never expected to see again. Mom? He croaked, disbelief crashing down around him like shattered glass. You're here? Sarah's eyes flickered to both Ethan and Catherine, and a moment of recognition sparked in the air. Ethan, listen to me.
She stepped forward, glancing back at the chaos forming behind them. We don't have time for explanations. You're not safe here. Why are you with her? Ethan's voice quivered, anger and hurt, mixing in a toxic blend. What's happening? Catherine's lips curled, a cruel smile breaking through her intense demeanor. You still don't understand the family you're part of, do you, Ethan? It's not just your father, who manipulates from the shadows. At that moment, Claire's hand squeezed tighter around his. He felt her warmth, felt her terror sink with his own. But Ethan was still recovering from the shock. It was all a whirlwind of secrets, a tapestry unraveled before his very eyes. Then came the loud crunching sound, wood splintering again as another figure entered. This one wasn't from either vehicle. It was a new player, a girl no more than 20, rushing in with wild eyes and a determined look. Ethan, they found the vault, she shouted, breathless. Who are you? Ethan demanded, his pulse racing. What vault? But before she could respond, compassion and desperation crossed her features. You need to trust me, your life depends on it. She darted forward, scanning the room. Catherine threw her head back, laughing, a cold, mocking sound. You think you can manipulate him into trusting you after everything? You're wasting your time. The girl, unfazed, locked her gaze onto Ethan. It's deeper than you know. It's not just about the business or the legacy. It's about a war your family waged against enemies you never imagined. Just then, everything shifted in an explosive finale. Gunfire erupted. Deafening, the sound biting into the cacophony around them. Instinct took over as everyone dove for cover. Ethan turned to find Claire, but she was lost in the noise, her figure swallowed whole by the shadows. Claire, he shouted, panic coursing through him. Where are you? But then, the pain hit him. A brutal jolt as the familiar figure of Jake emerged again, reappearing from the chaos towards Ethan, eyes wild with a mix of fear and desperation. They're after you, Ethan. You have to choose. Amid the chaos, the girl pressed forward, pushing through the panic. You need to decide now. Help us or become part of the very darkness that swallows everything whole. And then came the moment. The sudden twist that snapped everything into clarity. A single sentence slipped from Jake's lips, the revelation sharp and devastating. You're not just your father's son. From a building. The girl, his mother, even Catherine. They weren't just characters in a twisted tale. They were all players in a dark legacy he was a part of. One he never even knew he was entangled in. How could I be? He stammered, disbelief breaking through, shattering every certainty he thought he held. Was he really the one caught at the center of this storm? The room filled with frantic energy as the chaos surged. Shadows danced around him, engulfing everything he thought he understood. He had to make a choice, one he could trust. Would he embrace the darkness or fight against it? But just as the ground shifted beneath him, another voice shouted from the back, slicing through the madness. It's time we tell him everything. Ethan turned to the source, his heart racing. But before he could comprehend what this new reality meant, the darkness closed in once more, and he was left gasping for answers in an ocean of uncertainty. Ethan lay on the floor, breathless and confused. Everything felt like a twisted dream, shadows merging together. His mind raced with questions. What was happening? Who could he trust? Ethan, Claire's voice screamed through the clamor, sharp and desperate. We have to move now. He struggled to sit up, pain radiating from the wound like fire. But somehow, his resolve sharpened. He couldn't leave her. Not now. Not when danger closed in from every side. Panic surged as Catherine's voice rose above the chaos. Ethan, you need to listen. Your father. But before she could finish, a loud crash echoed through the room, another figure bursting in. This time, it wasn't just anyone. It was his father. Get away from him, he boomed, eyes blazing with a fierce authority that threatened to drown everything else. Ethan's heart sank.
The intensity in his father's glare felt suffocating. This wasn't just family drama anymore. This was a battle for survival. "Why are you here?" Ethan yelled, anger boiling within him. "What's going on?" "Enough games," his father snapped, moving quickly. "We don't have time for this." Suddenly, the girl who had rushed in earlier interrupted, her voice sharp and urgent. "Ethan, we have to go. They'll come for you."
Next. Who? Ethan gasped, confusion twisting his insides tighter. But as if summoned by his words, shadows shifted in the doorway. Figures emerged, a coalition of men dressed in black, faces cloaked and threatening. Ethan's world narrowed, the air heavy with dread. And then, as if the universe had decided to shatter the fragile truce, the girl lunged forward, shoving a piece of paper into his hands. "Read this," she urged, eyes wide. "It's the only way to understand." His fingers trembled as he opened it. One glance and his heart dropped. It was a list, names scrawled in hurried ink, alongside dates and locations, places he recognized. "Is this—" Ethan began, but the words fell away. Before he could question it further, a deafening shout came from behind him, cutting through the air like a whip. "Get down." The command echoed, but the instant it registered in his mind, a gunshot rang out. The world slowed. Ethan turned just in time to see a flash. The darkness blurred as his father took the shot. No hesitation, just instinct. The bullet sped toward the girl who had handed him the paper, eyes wide with horror. "No!" he screamed, adrenaline surging. But it was too late. The echo of the shot reverberated in his chest like thunder. Time returned to its chaotic pace. The girl collapsed, blood spilling onto the floor like crimson ink on a blank canvas. And suddenly, everything shifted. "No, you weren't supposed to be here," Catherine screamed, face pale. This wasn't part of the plan. Ethan felt the ground beneath him tilt. What plan? What's happening? His father turned, fury mixing with guilt. "You're involved in this deeper than you think. They used you, Ethan, and now they want you dead." Ethan stumbled back, mind reeling. Used me for what? But in that moment of uncertainty, another loud crash erupted. The side door burst open, and more figures streamed in, this time with badges, shouting orders. They swept into the chaos, hitting the floor with authority. Ethan watched, bewildered, as one of them approached his father. "We have to detain him. He's a suspect." "Suspect?" his father shot back. "You don't understand. He's my son." And just then, clarity split through Ethan's, confusion like a laser beam. "Wait," he shouted, piecing it all together. "What do you mean, suspect? I'm not—" The atmosphere prickled with tension as everyone froze, eyes darting. Everything felt charged, ready to explode. But then, just like that, the remaining shadows moved. As if choreographed, they took off toward the exit. "What are you doing? We're not done here." "Don't let them escape," one of the officers shouted, diving forward. Then, without warning, the girl's eyes snapped open. The previous horror transformed into something else entirely, calmness. She raised herself off the floor, impossibly, blood pooling around her. "Too late," she whispered with a smile, a twisted grin spreading across her face. "You'll never see the truth." Ethan's heart raced, screams cutting through. The air again. He felt the shock rip through every fiber of his being. What was happening? Had they all been played? In that instant, he could hear Catherine muttering, "The real war begins now." Everything twisted again as the girl stepped back into the shadows, her presence fading into darkness. And all at once, Ethan knew. He was in a game far beyond his understanding, surrounded by people with hidden truths, battling forces he had no idea existed. "Ethan!" Claire's voice broke through the chaos, pulling him from his thoughts. But as he turned to her, he saw not her desperate fear, but a look filled with something else, something ominous, a smile, a knowing smile. It felt like a cold winter's wind wrapped around him. "You," he found himself whispering. And as the chaos roared back to life, nothing would ever be the same again. Ethan stared into Claire's eyes, the warmth he once felt,
now replaced with icy tension. The room spun, shadows of doubt creeping closer. Her smile, a knowing smile, shook him to his core. "What do you mean, you?" he managed, voice faint, as panic clawed at his chest. But before Claire could respond, the girl who had handed him the paper collapsed. Blood pooled around her, staining the floor like an ugly truth. "Get her back!" he yelled, the moment freezing in time, dread creeping in. As screams erupted once more, Ethan's eyes darted back to his father, then to Catherine, every pulse of his heart racing against the chaos. This was more than betrayal. This was life itself hanging in the balance. "Help her," he shouted, desperation spilling over. "It's too late," Catherine shot back, her cool exterior cracking. But before she could elaborate, the loud crash of footsteps answered. "Secure the area," a voice roared, and suddenly the tactical figures swarmed in like a tide of darkness, guns raised and voices shouting orders through the ricochet of confusion. Ethan's heartbeat thundered in his ears. "Mom, Claire, are you okay?" he called out, the chaos pulling him apart. But neither could answer as yet another voice arose, one filled with authority that silenced all. "Ethan," said a figure stepping from the darkness, and his breath caught. Was a man in a sharp suit, face familiar, a dangerous knowing glimmer in his eyes. "Who are you?" Ethan whispered, his gut twisting at the recognition. Suddenly the man pointed, not at Ethan, but at Claire. "You really thought you could keep this from him?" His tone was colliding with chaos, but that single phrase became a razor, cutting through the tension. Ethan felt ice begin to creep into his veins. "Keep what from me?" The suit-wearing man smirked, lingering on Claire, before looking back to Ethan. "You're not going to like what I'm about to say." "What do you mean?" Ethan's voice was barely a whisper now, dread settling heavy in his stomach. "Your mother, she's not who you think she is." A gasp shot through the room. Claire's eyes widened. "What are you talking about?" she managed, voice shaking. But the man continued. "She's been playing both sides, feeding information to your father and to our enemies. That list you have?" He gestured toward the crumpled paper in Ethan's hands. "That's her doing. A setup." Time stalled, the air electric. "No," Ethan breathed, backing away. "You're lying." But doubt wormed its way into his mind, weaving through old memories. Bits of conversations he'd brushed off. Was it possible? Could his own mother have betrayed him so profoundly? "Ethan, no!" Claire stepped forward, desperation in her voice now. But the weight of the world fell heavier on Ethan's shoulders. She reached for him, but he recoiled as if earned. "Don't touch me." A wave of pain and betrayal coursed through him, filling every crack. Everything he thought was solid now crumbled. "Please, you've got to believe me," she begged, her voice breaking, the urgency palpable. But before he could process, the girl's eyes flickered again. She was writhing. The blood was gone, her wound healing. "Not this time," she hissed, her voice low yet filled with power. She stood tall, glowing almost, a dark energy radiating from her. "You're all going to wish you stayed in the dark." Suddenly, the fabric of reality warped. Ethan felt thrust into a whirlwind. "What are you?" he shouted, panic gripping him. The girl's presence shifted from victim to predator in an instant, expressions twisting sinister. As Claire's grip on him tightened, he felt torn. He was lost in the chaos, wondering who or what to believe. And with that, the girl screamed, unleashing a force that knocked everyone back like a gust of wind. Bodies fell, chaos erupted, and Ethan could feel the ground beneath him shaking. "Find the vault," she screamed again, and then everything froze. Ethan blinked, disbelieving what he just witnessed. The storm raged on, but he stood there breathless, caught between worlds. What vault? What darkness was waiting to be unleashed? And suddenly he realized everything he thought he knew was collapsing faster than he could grasp. As the dust settled, one fragment of truth stood clear in his mind. In this storm, there were no heroes. "Ethan," Claire called, snapping him back, but her voice felt distant. "We have to go." But he couldn't move. The question echoed. Who could he trust?
Ethan gasped as the chaos intensified around him, the air thick with tension and unreleased fear. Claire's frantic grip was the only anchor in a storm of shadows and voices. "We have to move," she urged, urgency flooding her tone. But Ethan stood still, heart pounding, trying to comprehend the whirlwind of betrayal. "What if it's true?" he whispered, staring at Claire, the girl, the darkness that surrounded them. "What if you—" "No." Claire's eyes filled with tears, her voice rising above the tumult. "You can't believe them. I love you. They want to tear us apart." In an instant, the spectral figure of the girl hovered, her power pulsing like an electric current. "It's time to wake up, Ethan. You've been blind to the truth. There's a vault that holds everything, everything you need to understand." The room quaked, another tremor rattling through the floorboards, as Ethan felt the weight of the world press on his shoulders. He had to make a choice, and he needed to decide fast. Heart racing, he glanced at Catherine, then back to Claire. Their fates entwined, and with every second that ticked by, the danger grew. "Go! Let's get to the vault!" Ethan shouted, adrenaline flooding his veins. He pulled Claire close, propelling them both toward the door, urgency igniting his every movement. But before they could escape, Catherine stepped forward, a fierce glint in her eyes. "You're walking into a trap. I can help you understand your father's world." "You're part of the reason we're in this mess," Claire shouted back, pushing Ethan ahead, fear fueling her resolve. With a deep breath, Ethan forged ahead through the chaos, and as he sprinted outside, the sound of gunfire echoed behind him. He glanced back, heart torn. "We can't leave her." "Ethan, trust me," Claire shouted, dragging him forward into the night. They dashed into a world painted in stormy hues, the air electrified as shadows swirled and deepened around them. "I won't abandon them," he cried desperately. But Claire held tightly to him, determination etched in her features. "Then we fight, together." The pull to return was overwhelming, a black hole threatening to swallow him whole. But as sirens wailed in the distance, a flicker of hope ignited. What if the vault held answers, not just about his family, but about who he was meant to be? They stumbled upon an ancient door, half hidden beneath creeping ivy, a gateway to secrets untold. "This is it," Ethan breathed, feeling the cool metal touch against his clammy hand. He pushed it open, and they stepped inside. At that moment, everything shifted. Sunlight flooded the space, illuminating walls lined with secrets. There was the vault, pulsing with energy, old and yet alive with unanswered questions. "Together," Claire murmured, squeezing his hand, and at that moment, he knew they could face anything. As they approached the vault, a voice spoke from the shadows, calm yet authoritative. "You've finally come to claim what's rightfully yours." It was Sarah, his mother, stepping into the light with a serene expression rarely seen. "I'm here to explain everything." "What have you done?" Ethan's voice trembled, the words clawing at his throat. "Why all the lies?" "Because sometimes love means protecting you from the truth," she said gently. "The world is darker than you can comprehend. Your father and I, we made choices, sacrifices, for you." But it was not a simple revelation, and as the truth unraveled, Ethan felt both anger and understanding clash within him. "You've put me in danger just to keep your secrets safe." A tear slipped down Sarah's cheek. "I thought I was saving you, but now you have a chance to choose your path. You're not just part of this legacy, Ethan. You can change it." With Claire by his side, Ethan reached for the vault, embarking on a journey of discovery and redemption. "We'll make this right," he declared, turning to face the shadows pooling behind him. "It's time for the truth to come to light." As he stepped forward to unveil the secrets sting enough to shatter illusions, he felt Claire squeeze his hand. Together, they faced the darkness that threatened to consume them. It was no longer about running away, it was about defining their own future. The storm outside roared, but within the vault, a flicker of hope ignited, a chance for rebirth, a moment to rewrite the legacy of their pasts. As the dust settled around them, the final pieces fell into place. The vault opened wide, and they would face whatever came next. together. All they needed was each other, and that was worth fighting for. You have to subscribe right now to ensure you don't miss any of the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button right now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this ends. Your support is what makes this journey possible. Let's keep the adventure alive.